Welcome to the Up Your Jumper podcast, where you get to hear a bit about what is happening in the way of sustainable design and living, renewable energy and water around Australia. Number 3 is where we're at. In this episode, we'll hear a bit about what is happening around Perth. First up, we've got Daniel from EV Drive, a business converting regular cars into electric vehicles. Also, I had a chat with Alex Hindman, Sustainability Officer at Fremantle Council. He told me about some of the initiatives the council has going, and also Alex speaks of 2 projects he's been involved with that haven't worked out so well, but are interesting to hear about all the same. These being Nexus Carshare and Green Edge, a property development company. First up, we have Daniel speaking about EV Drive.
I'm Daniel Booth. I own the EV shop, which we're converting customers' cars to electric drive, taking them petrol engines out and putting electric motors in with batteries, so they drive like a normal car afterwards, pretty much.
Yep. And how much interest have you had in that so far?
Huge amounts of interest.
Yeah.
The interest isn't the problem. It's they are expensive to do.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get the price down. Every customer that we've we've done a conversion for so far, has everyone's had different reasons for doing it. So that was something that's quite unusual.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of people just have the green vision or that type of thing to do it. But everyone's got their own different reasons, which is quite interesting.
Okay. So. What are some of those different reasons that people have had?
We've got one gentleman here we've done the Mazda RX-7 conversion for him. He loved his car.
Yeah.
He liked the environmental side of things as well, but Mazda RX-7s have a rotary motor which are noisy, smelly. They use a lot of fuel. I think he's been through 3 motors in the car, and he decided, and the car is in very good condition, so he's a bit of an enthusiast, and he loves his Mazda RX-7, so he was looking at putting a different type of motor in altogether, and he came across us and decided to go with electric drive. So, We've got a gentleman here with a Mazda 2. He bought a brand new car. He's a retired bloke. His reason behind doing that is he never wants to pay for petrol ever again.
Yep.
He likes the idea of having something unique, and he says ever since he was a kid he's wanted to have an electric car. He thought it was a dream. When they were kids growing up, he thought one day there'll be electric cars, and his dream is he's going to have an electric car before he goes.
Yeah.
So that's his reasoning behind that. We've got some other guys. We've got the other Mirage over there. That's the owner of the Carbon Neutral Association. He's doing that for environmental reasons, and for it'll be a great advertising for his business.
Yeah.
Electric cars tend to generate a lot of questions, a lot of interest. People tend to come along and you got an electric car, and it'll create a lot of publicity for him.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that he's promoting a green business, and he wants to set a good example. And
With the business.
Yeah, with the business. Yeah. So
how long have you been operating for?
I've been driving an electric car for about 6 years.
Yeah.
But as a business, I decided last year to get into it as a business.
Yep.
So we've really only been operating for about 12 months as a business.
Yep.
I think we're probably the largest in Australia for converting existing cars to electric. There is a guy in the Eastern States who's done brand new cars, and he's only doing one model. But we're probably the only other people we've probably done more cars than anyone else of different models. So,
yeah. So are you focused on particular makes or?
Well, we'd like to.
We'd
like to try and one day have a couple of kits ready to go. So we'll have like 2 or 3 models people can choose from, and then we can bring the car in and we can get on with it and get it over and done with quite quickly.
Yeah.
And that way it'll bring the cost down as well.
Yeah. Because at the moment, how long on average would it take to convert?
We could, if we were working full time on the car, we could convert probably one of these Mirages in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But at the moment, sometimes the lead time on ordering the parts can be in excess of 3 months sometimes. So we really need to get all the parts together before we start the job.
Yeah. And how much does an average conversion cost?
To do a conversion, a basic conversion like on the Mirages, is around about $20,000 mark. That's using the lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah.
So that's probably the cheapest here. So that we can do a lithium-ion conversion. Using lead-acid batteries, we could do it cheaper.
Yeah.
But that limits your range.
Yeah.
And
what sort of range would you get? with both sets of
Both,
batteries.
with the lead acid batteries, you're pretty much sort of limited to sort of 30 to 40 k's, depending on the size and the amount of batteries you've got in the vehicle.
Yeah.
With the lithium batteries, the Mirages live at about a range of about 75 kilometres.
Yeah.
Like the RX-7, the Mazda 2, they'll have a range of over 120 kilometres per charge.
Okay.
So depending on the size of the batteries and how much we go into it. And so as with the Mirage, they have power steering and air conditioning, and that does put does reduce the amount of kilometres you can drive the car.
So there's still sort of more just commuting cars rather than...
Yeah, the average Australian does about 29 k's a day, so it'll suit the average person. Ideally, therefore, a family that's got two cars. One car's electric, that's ideal.
Yeah.
They're perfectly suited for that. For someone, most people don't just drive to work and get home, or drop the kids off at school and do that sort of running around the day. And most of the time, that's nowhere near more than 50 k's.
Yeah. So you're sort of looking at families with two cars and to replace one of those with an electric one. So
Ideally, that's the perfect use for an electric car at the moment.
Have you got any connections with working out ways to provide a green power source to...
A lot of these people, like Bradley here, and a couple of these guys that have got electric cars, have got solar systems on their roofs.
Yeah.
So they're providing green power to the grid, and they're redrawing off that.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, they are using pretty much green power. They're self-sustainable in a point to themselves. If you don't have the availability, you can always pay for green power.
Yeah. But I suppose, so currently, all your customers are sort of already aware of the options for green power.
Most
their own setups.
if you're going to put that sort of money into an electric car, most people are pretty well informed of their options and stuff like that. So, but even using power from the PowerPoint, the cars are still more efficient. And the end emissions are lower and centralised. Using a coal-fired power station.
Yeah.
At least you're not polluting your house. If you're polluting your street when you drive at your street with a petrol car, if you use an electric car, the pollution's somewhere else.
Yeah.
And usually if the pollution's all in one place, it's a little bit easier to deal with. Coal-fired power station, they can reduce their emissions without having you to worry about it, especially with a car. When you like the RX-7, which is an old 84 model, the emission laws on that at that time were nowhere near as strict as they are now. So that car's still driving around, polluting some bad emissions. But at least now we've brought that back up to well beyond
what it
current
was.
standards.
Yeah. And do you know roughly what the running costs are?
You're looking a bit over $1 per 100 kilometres for electricity.
Yeah.
So about $1.20, $1.30 for about 100 k's, depending on how you drive the car.
Yeah.
The overall running costs in the end are a lot cheaper because there's no service costs, there's no oil changes, there's no coolant, there's no radiator, no exhaust system to rust out. So the running costs are greatly reduced.
Yeah. And battery life, how long the average?
Once again, it depends on how you look after the car.
Yeah.
It's just like any car, if you don't look after it, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
With the batteries too, there is some maintenance. We're trying to make it as automatic as possible. So the customer doesn't need to be concerned about it. With battery management systems in the car, so it takes care of the charging and the discharging and everything. So with the lithium batteries, if you look after them, you should be able to do. It should last 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. And how long is the recharge time?
Depending on how many kilometres you've done, how far you discharge the battery. So you're looking at around about 10 to 15 kilometres per hour of charging.
That was Daniel from EV Drive. Don't forget to check out side 2 of this episode, where we'll hear from Alex Hindman, Sustainability Officer at Fremantle Council. End of tape. Please turn over to side 2 to hear from Alex.